Let me just go back to the screen. Uh, this is, I am not as savvy as I would expect myself to be. So allow me.
We are all floating on the same boat, sir.
Yeah. So I believe I am visible on screen now.
Yes, sir, you are,
And
sir.
the presentation is also visible.
It's visible. Kindly put it in the presentation mode, sir.
Right. Yeah. So I can put it on presentation mode, and we can move ahead then. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll do that. Now we go here. Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to everyone. I welcome you all on the second day of this National E-Conference. As we all know that the theme area today is inclusive entrepreneurial innovation in the livestock sector. And we have one of the most eminent personalities for Brain Manthan session amongst us, Dr. Satyajit Tripathi. He is a veterinarian by profession, did his BVSc and AH from OUAT way back in 1994, and after that he's completed his MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. He has worked for around 22 years in the India's leading companies, including Pfizer, Ranbaxy, Elanco, and Himalayan Drugs, where he had held various leadership positions in marketing, product development research, and field operations. He is well-known personality and expert in the area of marketing strategy formulation and execution, leadership development, and research project management. Since 2016, he has been an entrepreneur himself who helps other entrepreneurs to be successful as designated partner in two agribusiness consultancy organizations, namely Endurance Management Services and AgroAssess Consultancy, and a part of biotech startup, namely ProTech Biotech Solutions, where he is founder CEO. Sir, we are very thankful to you for sparing out your valuable time for our students so that they can be guided by a person like you. Indeed, it is an honor for all of us to have a person of immense stature like you, who is really turning the direction of the winds to enable the young minds to incubate and translate. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your time. And over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mehta, for your kind words. I don't think I deserve so much attention, but yes, I have done a little bit to help and to do to all my living as well. So not an issue for that. We have all been trying to do something. Ultimately, the society benefits. So in that context, I would like to speak about the topic. Before that, I must extend my heartfelt thanks to all the organizers and all my friends and colleagues, as well as my namaskar to all my seniors and gurus, and my appreciation for participation in this event to all my friends and junior colleagues. So this topic was entrepreneurship in livestock sector, strategies for taking ideas to mass adoption. So basically what I have tried to do here is, I have not been a very good speaker at any time. I have just tried to put out all my thoughts in this subject. What is the livestock sector? Why we should be talking about it? And what is this getting an idea into adoption mode? So my little attempt, if there are any errors, please pardon me. I will try to correct. So what this presentation today will contain is, one is setting the context. Why should we be discussing about livestock entrepreneurship? Then we move to understanding what is this all issue about idea, how the idea can be generated, validated, and protected. Then how do we take such ideas to the market? Because ultimately ideas are valuable when they can be given a commercial value by the market. And in that process, what all we need to do, One is creating the business entity, after creation the sustenance, and then part of the sustenance comes from funding, and particularly most important aspect when you are in a startup mode, and a couple of few resources, that what kind of books you can read, what kind of websites you can go to. Okay, so that's how we have structured this. Maybe there will be other expectations. I would like, and I would request to keep your expectations a little low from a novice like me. So first we come to why we should be discussing this livestock entrepreneurship. There are three main reasons, and the first being livelihood. Livestock farming and related activities gives employment and income to almost 11 crore Indians, almost 8% of our population. Plus, in adjacent industries like the feed industry, the animal healthcare industry, the retailing of these produce, there will be, in my opinion, there will be at least another 50% of the direct employment, somewhere around 15 crore roughly. 10 crore people, 10% of our population would be engaged because of the livestock sector. Second, food security. Animal protein is a major part of good nutrition, and older people older than me, and people of my age would know the earlier days of 70s, early 70s. India almost faced a famine, and food security is a critical part of national security. So that is another reason. The third is the economic importance. Unless we are secure with food on our plates, nothing else will move. And this sector as a whole contributes also significantly to the national economy. So let us see how it contributes. This is, I am sorry for this part where you cannot see the years. Basically 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18, data for which is clearly available and visible to everyone in the public domain. What we can see is the total output of livestock sector, meaning what is the value of the output from livestock sector that is sold at a market price. According to the government's own calculations, it has increased from about 4.9 lakh crore, let us say 5 lakh crore in 2011-12 to 10.4 lakh crore in 17-18. And the gross value added, that is the value of output minus the value of the inputs. So the real net income generated for the country increased from 3.3 lakh crore to 7.6 lakh crore per year between 11-12 to 17-18. So in 6 years, this sector has given a compounded annual growth rate of 15%. When we take out the impact of inflation also, it gives us a net growth rate of about 12% a year. So very important sector, not only from a social but also economic standpoint. As a contributor to the nation building, livestock sector actually was less than 4% in 2011-12 into the GDP of the country. Now it is almost 5% of the GDP. Because the share of agriculture as a whole in the economy has been reducing. Today, I think it stands somewhere around 16-17%. But the share of animal health, animal proteins, and the share of livestock sector within this agriculture has grown from 22% in 11-12 to 28.5% at 17-18. Today, probably it will be at about 29 plus percent. That is one. And of course, I already said livestock sector gives employment to almost 9% of Indians, and the role of animal protein we have discussed. So, if this is the case, then okay, livestock sector is important. But what is entrepreneurship? And there is a new term making rounds, which is called entrepreneurship. Because I believe many of the audience members would be students, and probably they would either become entrepreneur or they would become employees in different areas. So it is important to understand those two terms. And the basic question it will answer is, whose money and career is at stake? If I am staking my money and my career both, then I am an entrepreneur. If I am risking somebody else's money and my career, then I am an entrepreneur. That's the basic understanding that I will share. The process of creating something different of value by devoting necessary time and effort, assuming the accompanying financial, psychological, and social risk. And of course, when you take the risk, you receive the resultant rewards. And yes, there is a lot of personal satisfaction. So the situation is not so different if you are an employee in an organization also. The only thing that changes is whose money you are putting into stake. You are not putting your own money, you are putting your own career into stake there. You are an employee in an organization and you try to do something which an entrepreneur would do. But you would be doing with your employer's money and not with your own money. Much more safer option, I would say, when a person has got uh, what is that called, has got different responsibilities and different liabilities. So young people who don't have liabilities can go ahead with entrepreneurship right off the cuff. Some people like me, complete part of your responsibilities, you know that you have liabilities, but you have something that you can cover. So you can take a risk and then you take a jump, become an entrepreneur later in the life. That's called the second innings entrepreneurship. The first innings entrepreneurship is always better. People have been making it very big in different aspects. And in India, of course, many people would have known about Flipkart. Started as a bookstore, online bookstore, and now I think it was valued at some $26 billion. Anyway, so let us move ahead. I just want everyone to take a minute out and think of this. You see, there is a shadow here, okay? This shadow is of an object, okay, which is on a football ground. How do you move it on the ground? Think about your answer. Take a couple of seconds more to think what alternate answers can there be. And in the process, let me share another statement. Yesterday night, I was watching a small movie online, and I liked something that was said in the movie. It's about an author who forgot how to write or who did not like to write anymore, and then later again he started mentoring somebody. What he said to his protege was very interesting for me, and it is very apt to this context. He said, never stop looking for what is not there. Now we are looking at what is there, okay? And what is not there is something very important here, okay? Now I will show you what is not there. I believe many people would be now thinking, oh, it's so easy. We can actually move this object very easily on a football ground. It just depends on from which angle we were looking at the problem. If I was looking from this side, I would have seen this. If I see from this side, I would see this, and then I can move like this. Okay. The main reason why I said this is to drive this point home. Ideas always will need perspectives. means different ways of looking at problems. How something appears is always a matter of perspective. How we look at the problem determines what kind of solutions we will find. And it is not important always to find the right solution, but to find the right question to address. Once we address the right question, maybe may not be we, but somebody else will find the right solution to the question. Asking the right question is more important. So here the right question was not how do we move this object. The question is, what is this object that we need to move? Okay, so let us move ahead and understand idea generation. Okay, how do we generate ideas? And I have taken a few of examples, okay, from our industry itself. Okay, looking at new customer experience. In India, there is a dairy farm called Bhagyalakshmi Dairy, which is owned by Parag Milk Foods Group. It's about somewhere around 70 kilometers from Pune, if I am not mistaken. And their concept, way back in 2010, if I am not mistaken, yeah, before that, in fact, 2007-8, they started this project. Milk from udder to glass without touching human hand. The customer's experience they wanted to give is unadulterated pure milk. And at that time, when milk per liter in the market, the price was, consumer price for milk per liter was on an average between 35 to 40, they were selling milk in tetra packs at a price of 80 rupees a liter. So almost double the price they used to get. So new experience. Meeting some poorly addressed need, such as masking agents for cattle feed. Many of the farmers and people would object that, look, the animal feed is smelling, so my animal is not eating. This concept of masking agent has been there in the food industry for a long time, but in the cattle feed industry and the animal nutrition arena, we did not use that for a long time. Only in the early 90s, mid 90s only we started using it. Then making things better, doing, taking action so that what is and what will be, there is a gap between that, and that gap gives a commercial benefit to the end user. So there are several products which have come in now, which affect the ruminal fermentation to increase animal productivity. Then matching emerging technologies to new potential users' need, such as I was speaking to somebody last week. There has been some issues with his cow; it has aborted. So I said, look, why don't you get it tested for brucella? So brucella testing today is happening with mainly with ELISA kit. If we can have a diagnostic kit which takes a drop of blood or a smear sample from the reproductive tract and gives us whether the DNA of a brucella bacterium is there or not, then that will help the farmer know whether the animal is brucella positive or not within a minute or maybe within 5 minutes. So the new needs, so needs are already there. We need to match the emerging technology. So recombinant DNA technology can be used. We have the protein, we have the antibody in the brucella antibody in the blood. So we can take a drop of blood and put it on a small diagnostic plate instead of waiting for ELISA kit and getting, see, ELISA kits are normally 96 holes. So that means I have to have at least 80 plus sample to use it, otherwise my costs will go up. So if I can have a lateral flow, it's called a lateral flow device. Okay, so if I have a lateral flow device, it can give me the results very quickly. Similarly, there could be alternate use of a product or technology, which we started doing for something, but ended up doing something else. In this, there is a famous product in Pfizer's kitty, and this is not an animal health product. The original research was for hypertension, and this was, if I am not mistaken, 1994-95, because I had just entered the industry and I was a management trainee in Pfizer. Pfizer was good in medicines of hypertension, and they were testing one product, and they found a side effect of the product. And somebody realized that, look, this product can address a different problem. Okay, so the issue is we have a product and this product can address a different problem. Earlier we used to see what is the problem, how do we address the problem with an idea. But the idea was, now we have a product, what all problems can this product solve? And people will know this product. Today the product's brand name is known as Viagra. It's a blockbuster drug from Pfizer. But originally never thought of trying to treat a symptom of erectile dysfunction. It was to treat hypertension. Now again, they are going back to research to treat hypertension with sildenafil citrate. So, okay. So how do we generate ideas? Different ways of looking at the problem and finding out how an idea can work. There are fundamental drivers of ideas. How do you get the ideas? And coming to our industry for that matter, the imaging and optics as a technology is evolving, and with that, today there are at least 3 to 4 companies that I can remember now. I cannot tell you the names, but there are one Canadian company, one US company, 2 Canadian companies rather, one US company, and 2 of them have been supported by Cargill to do what? To do face recognition and movement recognition in cattle and poultry, so that they can identify what kind of, which are the cows which are not eating, which are the cows having higher temperature. And that imaging and optics combined with tech enabled information processing, that is called Internet of Things. So what is this Internet of Things? You know, the feed has to be given to the animals on a regular basis. Now, if we know what is the animal's yield level, and based on that yield level, how much feed it should be taken and how much it has already eaten from the manger, if we can know that, then the manger will be provided. Okay, the animal will be provided feed in its specific place. That, okay, this is the quantum of feed you should be taking in a day, and the animal takes that. So without any human intervention. Then of course we have nanotechnology, we have nanoparticle enabled drug delivery systems, we have recombinant biotechnology, with which we can do a lot of different things. Right now we can produce antibodies, we can produce proteins that help the animal fight not against diseases but also deficiencies. And also we can use the evolving genetic technologies to produce animals which are disease resistant, which have got specific protein producing ability. So these are the new technologies which are evolving in the livestock arena. And the socio-economic changes, that are also another set of drivers. One, slowly as the economic affordability increases, people are more and more willing to become organic and eco-friendly, meaning reduce our carbon footprint and protect the planet for the future generation. People want safe and hygienic food. People want to experience the process, how their food is being produced. So these different changes will give us newer avenues for ideas which can be commercially utilized by giving something to people who want to get something, not by forcing something on people. So, how do we generate ideas in field? I used to read a lot of books, and one of my favorite authors is Ashok Shuta. He is a serial entrepreneur in the infotech sector. And one of his books I liked was Entrepreneurship Simplified. And what he says is the most important decision in any entrepreneurial venture is the choice of idea around which a business will be built. So I am not worried about the first part of this. It is this part which is idea around which a business will be built. That is the most important. So businesses are not built around products. They are built around ideas and what purposes that you want to serve with your idea. This is what actually drives the whole process. Okay. And as we all know, knowledge base shifts very quickly these days with the evolution of internet and the freedom to find out and analyze information at a flip of a coin. Whatever we think is, oh, this is high tech today, tomorrow it becomes completely obsolete. अरे ये बहुत पुराना है, सबको मालूम है. So the boundary of knowledge has been moving very, very quickly. So what is the key there? In that case, the important point is we need to catch hold of the idea and execute those ideas in the market before the idea becomes stale. So how do we do that? One, when you are in field, you have to be among the customers and the stakeholders. So when you are there, interact with them without hesitation, without fear, both. Because hesitation comes when we are in front of an authority figure and also when we are with somebody who is probably far, far below the social ladder compared to where we are. We all need to be comfortable. Look at everyone as human beings and figure out what is the pain point, what are the real issues they are unable to solve. Because that is where innovation is required. Innovation is not required to do something that is already being done. Innovation is required to do something what is not there. And we need to stay updated on the technological developments in our domain. And domain knowledge meaning, if we are in the livestock sector, being in that sector helped me at least personally to track down all the different developments and do something meaningful and contribute to the society, because that is what we have been trying to do. Stay updated on the technological developments. Network with other entrepreneurs and business leaders in your area, not necessarily in the same business, but also in the adjacent businesses. Meaning, if I am a livestock farmer, I can talk to somebody who is probably in food processing. I can talk to somebody who is giving me animal feed. So there is a network. So this kind of network of entrepreneurs will help us find out what is our common problem and how we can look into addressing this problem. When we are doing this, we need to think long term. Long term doesn't mean 3 years from now. Long term means 10, 20, 40 years from now. Think of the time when probably we will not be in active life. We need to think of long term. What is the problem? And if this problem is fixed, then what is the long term benefit for everyone? And another interesting quote I would like to say from Bill Gates. I don't need to emphasize who he is. I am using a software which was produced by his company, Microsoft's founder. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Meaning, we tend to overcome it in the short term and shortchange our long term. We always say that, oh, I cannot reach so and so place. But yes, if we take a long term view of the situation and start working for that long term, then it's more likely that we will succeed, and not only succeed but also surpass those goals. Uh, to give a personal example, and some of the people in the university and some other people in the place can vouch for that, they can confirm what I am saying. In 2011, the company I was working with decided that they wanted to do a very large scale research project, and I was asked to manage that project on behalf of the company, and it was involving about 40-50 scientists from across the country. It was in the large animal sector. I would not say what project it was, but the project requirement, one of the project requirement was we must do it with good clinical practice. That is a, I would say it's a tough nut to crack. It was difficult to go through that. So everyone thought, no, in India it is not possible to do that. And we had a short time, actually. We had a time frame of 3 years. But to everybody's surprise, after 1.5 years, it was very clear to all of us who were involved, right from the all the scientists who were in India, as well as the people who had come to audit our activities. Everyone in one tone, internally and externally, everyone was saying, oh, yes, this work can be done. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, when we say that we actually delivered the project in 2 years and 8 months, with 4 months extra to spare from the 3 years. So, yes, what you need to do is take a long term view and work towards a goal. Now, which areas we want to work on is also important, because we would not want to work on areas where we don't have any expertise. You may not have all the expertise, but you have expertise in one of the areas. So bring in your expertise. So when you look at this, I am just giving a small framework here. I would know that academicians, my gurus, they will pardon me for giving something like this. There are different areas of expertise and different areas of domain where this is going to work. Say, for example, if we are looking into livestock sector, we can divide it into 4 areas: farm input, farming, output processing, and output logistics. So in these 4 areas, there are different areas of expertise that can be used: IT or information technology applications, the conventional biotechnology, the modern biotechnology, and new product or processes for value addition. There could be new process. So I have just trying to give this as an example only. When you see computing and allocation of feed, that is a cross section of farm input and IT. In farming and IT application, use of face recognition system, use of automatic body weight measurement. So all these will come under this. There will be other areas where I have left some gaps because I could not think of something with my limited thinking capacity. So the conventional biotech, new strains of ruminal bacteria, identify them, bring them out and culture them and give it back to the farmer. New processes for industrial casein production, for that matter. Today there is a lot of milk wastage that happens. If the milk is not of good quality, then the processor will have to destroy the milk. Why should we destroy the milk? We should partition the milk into industrial uses. And one of the industrial uses could be casein production. The modern biotechnology. Today we are talking about sex semen doses for cattle. Why not for poultry? Because poultry also, if you see a layer farmer, would not like to have a male bird. What will you do with that? It's like a male Holstein cow, male Holstein animal. Not of much use to the farmer. Then for farming, we can have genetically modified birds and animals which produce specific proteins, which are disease resistant. We can also go for new products or processes, like we can use offal for animal nutrition. We can use in farming organic or residue free milk and meat. Do I have something? Just a moment. Sorry, I just couldn't understand. It was blinking. Okay. So some more ideas in the livestock domain. Sequencing of genomes to create new options against infections. New molecular techniques which can help manipulate genes for therapeutic use or even industrial use. For example, there was a huge oil spill somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico, and it took a lot of effort. It caused a lot of ecological damage. But today, if it was today, probably we would have used a new strain of bacteria which eat up the oil, which will use the oil as in their biological process, as their metabolic process. And part of that oil spill could have been taken care of. Using of nanotechnology for delivering new drugs, for using as biosensors to identify locations of different disease and different infections. Increasing farming efficiency by using Internet of Things, automated feeding, automated milking, that is already happening in different countries. Automated cleaning, identification of sick animals, genetically modified birds and animals for disease resistance, special proteins, new diagnostic methods and kits. Today, most of the diagnostic kits that we find are in ELISA mode, and we have to have a lab to do that. If we can use that same technology and only change the technology to lateral flow assay technology, we can do it. Everything we can change that. ELISA is nothing but using a optics. Okay, so if we can use that same technique, same method, and we develop a small tool, probably a small optical box where I put a drop of blood and I have a sample of the reference where I have an antibody. So, and this, if this serum has got the same antibody as in the sample given, as in the sample and the antibody, there is a matching of that particular optics, then I say yes, the test is positive. Developing that kit can be a new idea. Use of feeders for animal nutrition has happened in a couple of places. Farm tourism, people want to see how animal feed is, how their food is being produced. Take them to the farm. So what is important is to follow our passion and ask 3 questions. Okay, one, is it going to benefit someone? And whoever it is benefiting, will he pay for it? Because unless he pays for it, you can only pursue a passion, you cannot pursue it as a profession. You have to make your passion your profession. And to do that, ask this question, is it beneficial for somebody who wants to pay? Second, is it legal? Is it within the boundaries of law? And third, you have to ask yourself, if I am doing something, does it match with my personal and my professional ethics? If the answer to these three is yes, then actually nothing stops you from achieving what you want to achieve. So I would quote a couple of people. Where observation is concerned, chance favors only the prepared mind. Louis Pasteur had said that about 250 years ago. So true even today. This is one of my, the other one is one of my favorite quotes. I have been receiving it from different sources, so I don't know who said it, but it's true. Think big, but when you start small, but you have to act fast. Take action, because intentions are nothing, actions are everything. We all have very good intentions, but we sit quiet and probably in the process let somebody else seize the initiative. That we need not. So we have found some idea, let us say. Now, if I have found some idea, I need to validate the idea. It's the idea then. Okay. What do we ask? And within the bracket, you will see in italics, there are some terms given. They are typical, I would use that word, they are typical management jargon. Okay. So don't get bogged down by them. But they are important so that when you are discussing with somebody else going forward, it becomes easy to convince other people. Who will benefit from using the idea or the product that is developed out of this idea? That is called a target customer. Who is this target customer? Okay. Then what is the problem that he has? And I can address that problem with this idea. Does he have any other alternative to address the same problem? If he has, then they become my competitors. Then, if that is so, then why should he follow my idea or why should he take my product? That is called a USP. Okay, in management jargon again, unique selling proposition, very old term. And then how much the customer can pay for this product or this solution developed out of this idea. Because if what he can pay and what I have to spend to get it to him is, there is an imbalance within these two, then I cannot be delivering that product or service and still sustain myself. Then I have to probably go either to the government and say, look, I have to, this is an important product service required for the people. This is for the good of people and others. I need to give it. I know how to give it, but I cannot give it with a profit. You need to sustain me till I become profitable. Then can we prevent others from copying it? Because if I do something, we are very good at reverse engineering. The same idea can be copied and replicated in thousands, if not millions. Thousands of people will come and copy your idea without having to spend a penny. So can you defend your idea from being copied and your product to be reproduced by somebody? And finally, can you scale up? Meaning, how can you increase the volume with a short notice? In a very short span, meaning I am not talking about 2 months, 3 months, I am talking about 2 years, 3 years. Within this 2-3 years period, can you scale up very quickly, increase the number of the users of your idea or product? If you can, then there is a fast growth possibility for you. So here I would like to talk about two areas of validation of the idea. One is the USP and second is using a value proposition map. Because if we are giving something of value, okay, if there is something of value, then the customer can pay. Okay, so how much value I am giving to the customer? If we can see that, this is a typical value proposition chart. Okay, what happens is customer or a your end user has got something to do, right? Or she is in a situation. Okay, every task he or she does or every situation he or she is either gives some pain or gives some gains. Okay, so what are those? The pains will ultimately, because we are in the livestock sector, the pains will ultimately lead to some losses and the gains will lead to some profits. And in fact, livestock sector is all about the economics, not so much about the emotions. There are some emotions involved, but mostly in the livestock sector, it is about the economics. So if there is a pain and I relieve a pain, then I realize this value. Simple example, the animals don't come to heat even after say 4 5 months of calving. Then a calf a year is not possible. If I can reduce the gap by one cycle, that is 21 days, then the farmer will earn, let us say, 21 days extra milk. On an average, 10 liters an animal, 210 liters of milk. He has to feed the animal for 21 days, roughly about 100 rupees a day, if I say, then 2000 rupees of spending and 4000 rupees of income, 4200 rupees of income at 210. So 2000 rupees is the gain I am giving. And then there is something I need to calculate this. What is my product or solution that is giving this value? Okay. And everything of value cannot be taken at the same value, right? If I give you a 100 rupee note, then you will give me, probably you will give me back something which says that okay, this product has got 100 rupees value. Okay, so then what happens is this 100 rupee value is giving me a satisfaction or something which is more than 100 rupees. That is why I will pay you 100. Similarly, so that is what, then a concept comes in that is called a return on investment. Excuse me. So once that happens, we have some value created. Okay, so what is the value we are creating with the idea for the customer is important. And please remember, all value creator, whether it is creating a value by relieving a pain or value from creating a gain, they will always have a limited life. So what we need to do is, once we have an innovation, we keep on refining that till we cannot refine it anymore and some new technology comes in. Okay, so now the next point is about the concept of unique selling proposition. If you see, there are three circles here. Okay, and the most important circle is this one. What the end user, the consumer, I have taken it out from somebody's old slides, so please pardon me for that if some people have seen it. So what is that the consumer or the customer want? Okay, and what we do very well. If the end user wants something and we do it very well, then that is our green zone. Within that green zone, if there is something that our competitor is also doing very well, okay, then that is not our strength. Our strength is what the end user will want and what we do like nobody else can do. The consumer doesn't want, somebody else does, who cares? The customer wants something, the competitor is doing it very well. Why should we get into that and create a problem for him as well as me? If he is not doing something and I am trying to do that, and then this is my innovation area. So this becomes my winning zone. Okay. So this area again, consumer wants, but competitor does, but doesn't do well. I don't know whether they are already doing some research to do it much better. If somebody is not trying to do something and I am trying to do that, then that is where we have a strength. Okay. So always play to your strength. If you notice what I have said, your domain area, which expertise you want to do, and select the area of a pain point of a customer. The customer wants it, he is not getting it from your competitors or from any supplier. That is the area where innovations can bring in big results. So let us say we have found an idea. We have seen that, yes, this is the idea we should be going ahead. It looks a valid idea to be pursuing. Then we need to protect the idea. Because what happens is, more often than not, ideas are generated as abstracts. And then what happens? We don't have the conviction or we don't have the drive. So adoption is delayed. Somebody else who is a smart observer takes the idea and makes a business out of it. Then what we need to do is protect your intellectual property. IP stands for intellectual property. Whatever it is worth, 1 rupee, 10 rupee, 100 rupee, 1000 rupees, billion rupees, protect. Usually, most of the ideas are initiated in an academic environment, so there will be a research institution involved, and I would say 99.9% it is because in the livestock sector, it will be mostly done at a research institution or a university. So please seek a license from the institution, and it is easy. If you are involved in the process, you know what is being done, how it is being done, you can get a license. Then file as many patents as you can for different use of this idea. Visualize the possibilities, what this idea can bring in, and seek professional help to create a strong protection of intellectual property. Excuse me. There are some 4 chart these things. Wow. Fair enough. Okay, so we need to seek professional help, because many times we don't know the legal language, and people who know the legal language or who access legal people, they take a step ahead of us. Okay. So what is this IPR? Why do we need it? IPR is nothing but a complex set of rights which protect different creative outputs. Creative output means your innovation, output of your innovation. Okay? It is vital when you create your income out of that. You want to do something as a charity, it's okay. You want to earn an income out of it, you better protect your IP. And these IPRs are also used as a part of the trademark for your businesses, for your brand name, for your logos. They are also IP. Why is it required? One, it gives you a competitive advantage because it is your idea, and this idea can be used by you and by people who are authorized by you. Then this type of IPRs are seen as an asset because see, ultimately most of us don't have the funds to go and do business on our own. So how do you get money for the business? If you have an IPR, then there is a value attached to that IPR. Okay. So this IPR attracts investors. Okay. Because if there is an IPR, it can create a value. If something can create a value, investors will come. It can be a potential source of income, not only by utilizing the idea and producing the product, but also by licensing it out to somebody who can use the idea, produce a product, and you sit back and earn a small royalty income out of that. Okay. Now, so we have identified, taken the idea, understood that yes, this is how the idea will work. This is how I can protect the idea. I have protected my idea. Now, how do I take the idea into the market? This is the stage when you need to start juggling with many balls flying in the air at this stage. You have to have the legal aspects right. You have to have the science aspect right. You have to have the commercial aspects right. Because ultimately it is the commercial aspect which will take the ball rolling forward. So this is the place where coordinated performance is required. And this is where you need a team. Now, the full form of team for me is together everyone achieves more. And each of these words have got a different context for me. When we say together, means we share the same vision or the same purpose. The team shares the same purpose to work. Everyone meaning not clones of me. Everyone means everyone as individual, they bring in different expertise onto the table. And achieve means achievement is not only one achieving and others supporting. Each section or each person supports the other and drives the other to achieve more. And what is this more? The more means focus on the outcome and result. And the more doesn't mean more money for individuals, but probably what is the customer's benefit. Maximize that benefit. Automatically money will flow into your company. Maximize your target customer's benefit. You will get the benefit automatically. So once we have started and we say that, okay, we need to take the idea to the market. Before we take the idea to the market, we need a proof of concept that yes, this idea, this product works. That is the one of the most tough parts. The usual pathways is in the life sciences, you do in vitro, that is you do it in the lab, then you do it in vivo, that is you do it on a live condition, live model, then you take it to a prototype, okay, then you go to the field trials, and then you go to approval for marketing. The other one is you have the concept on paper. If it is not an in vivo in vitro kind of situation, then you take it in a experimental scale. If you are using a, let's say you are using Internet of Things, then you cannot go in vitro in vivo way. You have to go use it as an experimental basis, do it on a prototype on a smaller farms, then take it to large scale different locations, and then you scale it up and sell it out, or you give it a franchise license. So proof of concept is basic requirement before you can prove the value. Once you have to, before going to the market, you have to prove the value of this concept onto the customer. Okay. So what do we need to check? We need to check whether what we had thought that if this idea or this idea is used as a product, it will give a specific value to the end user or the customer. What we had envisaged, is it giving the same benefit, or is it giving more, is it giving less? Then is the customer willing to pay? Many times we think the customer is willing to pay 1,000 rupees, the customer is actually willing to pay 200. There is a mismatch. And within that 200, are we able to make a profit? And if this benefit I want to deliver, is there a cheaper or alternate way of delivering that with the same idea? Once we have tested the idea, so we have the proof of concept. Okay, then we have, see, at the end of proof of concept stage, we will probably have a prototype of a product or the software or the process note. Once we have that, then we need to develop a commercial MVP, that is minimum viable product. Viable meaning it makes a small profit. Minimum viable is it meets the minimum requirements by the customer. Why it is important? Because it gives you a first mover advantage. It's always better to be in the market with a product. I will come back to the questions. Okay. It's better to be a first person with a product which meets the basic requirements, because that is where the customer is willing to pay, rather than waiting for another 5 years to bring in the ideal product. Then once we have a basic product, we can do course correction and refinements. And then if I have already set a benchmark for a basic product, then any course correction, any refinement will give me a more and more profits. Faster you enter into the market, more independent you become in that market. Now, if we have tested the idea, we know this idea is going to work, we have developed a minimum viable product. Once we have by the time we have developed a minimum viable product, we would have already completed this thing, because these are all parallel processes going on. Okay. Excuse me, I will stop. Okay. So if we have to go for the minimum viable product, that by that time we would have already created a new business entity. So what is a new business entity? A business entity is nothing but a unique legal entity. It is a person which is separate from me, you, or any one of the owners of that entity. Okay. These business entities are classified on their risk profile. Risk is what? The financial risk. Okay. One is an entity where there is no limit to the liability, meaning the business makes a loss. Whatever loss the business makes, the owners have to pay for that loss. That is an individual or a partnership enterprise. Okay. The other one is limited liability. That is the liability, or how much money the owners can pay for this business is limited by its authorized capital. So authorized capital means there is a limit given to the government saying an authorization that, okay, we are taking authorization, or we are asking for a registration saying we will be liable, or we can pay up to, let us say, 10 lakh rupees. So my authorized capital is 10 lakh rupees. Beyond that, if something happens, I will not be liable. Whoever does business, it is his risk. Okay. So there are three types of limited liability entities. One is a public limited company, where the equity shares, okay, that means the ownership of the company is freely traded among public. Anyone can buy or sell the ownership, part ownership of that company. Then there is a private limited company, where the ownership or the shares are not traded freely. The owners of the company decide whom to sell, from whom to buy. And the limited liability partnership, which is similar to a private limited company, but have got a smaller scale. Normally small scale companies, new emerging companies, have a limited liability partnership. All entities, okay, whether it is a unlimited liability or a limited liability enterprise, it should be registered with appropriate authorities. Either it's a register of firms for the first group, or register of companies for the second group. Okay. Both are administered under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The business entity registration is usually assisted by chartered accountants, company secretaries. See, this is something that we technical people are not very good at. Company secretaries, chartered accountants are professionals who do these jobs. How to create an entity, to do a name search and everything. They earn their livelihood by providing this as a service. Okay. Now, once you have created the entity, you need to sustain. How do we sustain? By three main processes. One is hiring a competent team. In the beginning stage, in the startup stage, what you need to have is, one, people will have management capability to manage the situations, and they are comfortable with uncertainty. When you are in a startup, you don't know which way your business will go. It can go thousandfold, it can stay where it is. and grow very slowly over a long period of time. And of course, people who have the contextual familiarity. So what is this contextual familiarity? I have got a technical education in veterinary science. I don't think I can work on the computer science area. And if somebody asks me how to sell a computer chip, I will probably be blind. That is one. Second, decide your vision, values, mission, and culture. It's probably the least understood area of sustaining a business entity, but most probably the most important area. First is the vision, why we should exist as an organization. Why this business entity should be there is the question we ask. And this question is revisited over a period of time, again and again, when you are in the startup. Then values, that is what is of value to us. How should we thrive? How should we live? What life should this organization live? And mission is a clear expectation of what is the next forthcoming milestone we are looking at, maybe 5 years, 10 years from now, where we should reach, what we should be doing, what we should have achieved. Then the culture is how we will work. That is what is encouraged in the organization and what will not be tolerated. That is your cultural guidepost. That okay, this is where you can go ahead and this is where you need to stop. This is the line, you cross that line, you are out of this list. Okay, very important. And as one of the management experts, Peter Drucker, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. You have the right culture, you get things done. Okay, the final part is preparing a business strategy and execution plan, because the business will get sustained only when it grows. So the business growth comes with a clear strategy. So this is where you need to plan. What is the stage we are? Are we starting? Are we scaling up? Are we competing in the market? And identify and validate our assumptions, because whenever we are saying something that okay, this is the market size, this is the kind of customer we are looking at, this is how much the customer is willing to pay, they are all nothing but assumptions. We need to validate or cross check ourselves against whether these assumptions hold true or not, and understand our risks and contingency plans. This is why we need to create a business strategy. I'll go briefly through it and very quickly. So why do we need? One, it gives us a status where we are, gives us clarity of purpose. Where do we want to go? Third, what do we need to do and what do we have to reach at the place where we want to go? It also helps optimize the resource allocation, because resources are usually limited in a startup case, and you use most of your resource in a low market opportunity, then it becomes a costly affair. We use lesser resource and we work on a low market opportunity, we are playing safe. We need to look up and find out where the higher market opportunities are there. If we don't use most of the resource, even if there is a high market opportunity, we are missing opportunity. The sweet spot is higher resource utilization for bigger market opportunity. So what is enduring success then? There is no secret sauce. The decisions in a series, not a single decision, it is a set of decisions. Going ahead, you will keep on taking decision after decision, which is based on your insights, your plan, and your alignment with all the stakeholders in the arena. When I say stakeholders, I mean we include the government, we include the end user, we include the investors, and we include the employees and our partners in the business. Then it has to be executed well, that is in time as per plan, and everyone plays his or her part. This is probably the most important. It's like an orchestra, somebody who plays the drum and somebody who plays the guitar, somebody who plays the flute, all have to play their part at the right time as per the plan. Otherwise there is no music. So this is where the strategic planning gives you a structured approach. I'll run it through very quickly. So the structure is like a building. You see the building from a distance. What do you see? You first see the vision and mission. Then what it stands on? You stand on the analysis of the givens, that is present situation, strategic ends, that is your purpose, the end you want, the means is the resources you have, and the execution plan. These are the planning stage. Okay. Then you have your annual and quarterly targets, you have your projects and action plans, and actually what you start from the foundation to the top. The top is vision and mission. You reach at that point, you complete this, but you start with the ground. The ground is when you have mutual trust and measured accountability. Within the group that works together, you have to have trust and accountability to each other. That is where execution can be flawless. Execution for what? For all the projects, for all the action plans. What do you have? You have your annual and quarterly targets for achieving something as part of this execution, and that comes from your strategic plan. Okay. So going through very quickly, first step is situation analysis, to understand the way the world works today and the way the world may evolve tomorrow. Therefore, what is our starting position? Where we do, what are the fundamentals, what is the situation, what is our observation of the situation, what are the problems, what are the driving forces for this whole thing, how this whole gamut of customer and problem combination, how it is going to evolve, and what are the likely scenarios. And if that is the case, then who are the competitors for us, and what is our SWOT is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. Now I am adding two more to it, which is out of these we will find the obstacles, the threats and weaknesses. If they cannot be handled, they become obstacles. The strengths and opportunities, when they can be used, they become our possibilities. So we do an analysis of these things. So this is our situation analysis. Then we define what is our goal, what do we want to become. So this is where the vision, mission, goals, and different business lines comes into picture. Then we come to what will we invest in. So what we will be investing in to accomplish what we want to do. So what is the purpose, why we should be in the business, what we want to do in 10 years, 5 years, and if we have done that, how do we know that we have done that, what are our targets, goals, and to achieve these goals, what is that we will do. Then we come to inventory of our strategic resources, that is how we want to create value, what is that value proposition, and then what is our capabilities to achieve this, what do we have to achieve these strategic goals, and then what we must become and what all we must do to achieve this, the vision which we decided. Okay. Last comes the, once we have understood this, then comes putting the pieces together. We have an innovation, we have a strategy, we have a plan that leads to success. So what are the specific initiatives, that is what are the projects we need to take, what are our medium term, short term plans to achieve these goals. Then we divide those into specific targets for individuals, and the resources are allocated to those individuals. You have so much money, you have to take so many people, and you have to meet and spend so much money to reach so people, and then this becomes their accountabilities of those individuals. Once we have this execution plan, then it is following a script. So there is a relationship between strategy and execution. One of my favorite slides. Great strategy, great execution, you end up with outstanding success. Great strategy Poor execution, you have slow progress. You won't achieve as much as you think you can. But poor strategy, great execution, very quick, very big failure. Poor strategy, poor execution, you will lose, but your losses will be limited. Believe me, gentlemen and ladies, I have experienced all these four. I have done some stupid things. I have got very quick and very big failures also in my life. But as the saying goes, failing is not a same, but failing repeatedly, doing the same thing is the same. Not learning from failure is the same. So what do we do when we want to drive the execution and be successful? Good strategy will come. We probably have experts, and as a team we can work on good strategy. But it's the execution which really problem. And execution derives from the culture we set. So how do we prepare the goals? As a culture, we be smart in making the goals. That helps in setting and executing and achieving those goals. Smart goal is specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound. This is another topic. Some other time we can discuss. So while we say that yes, we will do all these things, we will make a big plan, big company. Ultimately, it comes down to the rupees and pases. You need funding. If you have a new venture, you need funding. And fundraising is a topic in itself. Like entrepreneurship, which I am speaking about, is in fact a full-time course in many, many institutes. So funding similarly is another full-time course. So we will briefly go through what is the need, what are the different types, and what is the relationship between which stage of growth the company is. Okay, if you are a startup, if you are an entrepreneur, you need to understand that at what stage you are and what kind of sources of funds are appropriate at that stage. It's not my words, I have collected it from different sources. So usually the funds requirement is one for setup and pre-operating costs before you set the company. Then once you set the company, development of a prototype, product testing, field validation, these are all before you go for the marketing operation. You do the market research, you do the strategic planning. See, as a team, you will not be able to do all those things individually. Probably very large organization can do these things for a new product or something on their own. Mostly, as a startup, you will be dependent on others, and others don't come cheap. They charge their pound of flesh. Once you have done this, then you probably have to license in something to do a process or a product, and then you need to buy out equipment. You need working capital, that is, you need money to get the raw material. You need to fund the market outstanding, and then you also need money for staffing and your marketing cost. You need money for your office space. So all these things will require money. And usually there are three types of funds that you will get. One is a grant, which is very little always, doesn't actually always cover most of your costs. Then the second type is equity, which is a risk money. Very few people will be willing to take a risk on you. And third one is debt, which comes at a cost. Okay. So what are the sources? What are the repayment requirements and risk factors, and what expectations of returns these people have, and how much involved they will be on the decisions we will discuss. So in terms of sources, usually grants are given by the government and some private entities in the form of corporate challenges or as a ex gratia grant, because it helps them get into the area, and probably they want to buy out your technology and they don't want to take a big risk, so they give you a grant that okay, you do the research, if there is a positive outcome we will fund you further. Okay. So this kind of private entity and corporate challenges probably would go forward to getting angel investors equity, but government normally would say okay, you have taken your grant, you have completed your task. Now you are free to go, whether you get your equity or debt, and move ahead. So in grants, the repayment need is none. You don't have to repay this. So many a time when you have a grant, people feel very relaxed. But if you have a real long-term view about your innovation, I would say you need to complete this very quickly. Get this grant money used properly and bring out the outcome you want with the grant, so that you can ask for a further grant, or you can ask for equity from different entities. The risk factor is there is no risk to anyone. In fact, the grant is a money set aside by these entities, government or corporates. So they are not under any risk. Neither the entrepreneur who is taking that chance with the grant, that okay, I will utilize this money, I will deliver something. You utilize the money, you don't deliver, probably not much happens. You only are not trusted. That's a different issue. I don't want to get into that arena right now. The expectation of returns or sharing of profits, no expectation from the person or the entity which gives you the grant. Involvement in decisions, zero. They don't interfere in your decision making. This happens usually at the ideation stage, that is, you are in generating and refining the idea. Then we come to equity. Usually, as a startup, you will start looking at yourself, that is called bootstrapping, or you get some money from the family and friends. It's like, look, you have to pay me, you have to take the risk. I will use that money to give you a bigger return in long term. Then there are incubators and accelerators for small startups. There are angel investors. Then slowly, as you grow, there will be venture capitalists. And also these days there is a system called crowdfunding. You float your idea in the public, okay, and the public gives you funds for investing. Okay, I have very limited idea about crowdfunding, I must admit that. And I don't know whether it is a very good idea to share scientific findings unless you have a very strong intellectual property protection to go for crowdfunding. Of course, the repayment need here, whenever there is a term equity comes, the repayment need is zero. You don't have to repay anything. That is received by the company as equity. So what is the risk factor? Risk is with the investor, meaning who pays the money. As an entrepreneur, you give him no guarantee of performance. Okay. What is the expected returns? Now, you would have expected, let us say, I will earn 1,000 rupees of profit. Now, the equity partner, whoever has paid you money, let us say out of your total investment of 10,000, he has paid 2,000. Out of your 1,000 rupees profit, he has to be given 200. So it is the capital growth and the profit sharing is expected. It is actually legally bound that you need to share the profit. As much as you take, they have to take according to the share of equity they have. Then usually equity participants have got an active involvement in the decisions. Okay, more so if there is an angel investor or a venture capitalist. Then the third type of funding is debt. Debt is nothing but loan. Okay, there are different government schemes. I will not go into these because these are only for summarizing. So going forward, if need be, we can take into this. Then what is the repayment? Repayment has to be in full with interest. So this is a loan you have taken, you have to pay back the loan and you have to pay with an interest. Okay. So the risk is with the entrepreneur. Usually, whoever gives you a loan will ask for a collateral. Collateral is what can you give which shows that you don't need a loan. Okay. So basically something of value to the debtor or to the person or the entity which is loaning. You have to show that, look, I have value which is equivalent to the amount of loan or more than that, which I can repay with which I can repay you in case my venture fails. Okay. So the expectation of return, the good thing here is there is a fixed interest. If if you are doing a business and you are thinking by investing 10,000 rupees, I will get 10,000 more. That is, 10,000 will become 20,000 in 1 year, and you have taken a 5,000 loan out of the 10,000. The 5,000 will not require 5,000. They will probably require 500. So 10% interest or 20% interest, 1,000 out of the 10,000. So by that way, you actually invest 5,000 and your gain is 9,000. So irrespective of your profit, and if that doesn't work and your 10,000 reduces to 3,000, then also they will ask for your 5,000 plus 1,000. You have to pay them 6,000. Okay. And involvement in decisions, debtors usually no, unless, of course, unless you are a very big company taking a very big loan and you become bankrupt. Different issues. So let us look at our stages of a startup and the funding. Okay. Usually in the idea or the preceding stage, you have to take money by bootstrapping, meaning your own money, family and friends, or you get a grant. Once you have got to the stage of idea validation, you get some money from angel investors. You go to an incubator, set up, take a space there. Then some people will come and give you money, angel investors, the government loans you can take. Okay. After this stage, you have validated your idea and you have a prototype and you are ready to go to the market. That is the phase which is called your early traction phase. That is where your venture capitals, banks, they come in with, venture capitals can come in with equity, banks, non-banking financial corporations, and venture debt funds. They all give you loans. These three will give you loans, these will give you equity. Then once you are scaling up at a later stage, your business has started picking up, then the venture capitals and something called a private equities. That is basically a different name for very rich people. They give their money to somebody to manage. So they are, that manager is called a private equity fund. Okay. They are different small companies. Okay. So these are the different types of sources, and these are the stages at which this source is most appropriate. Okay. Interesting. I will go through this stage. Okay. When you see the seed fund, and this is called a valley of death. Why it is called a valley of death? Because your idea can die very quickly unless your revenue doesn't grow quickly. So your revenue growth has to happen quickly in this period, and that happens only when you have break even. Okay. So breaking even, unless you have broken even, your money is sunk. Unless you get your money from angel investors, idea dies a death. So this is your ideation stage. Once you have ideated, then you come to your early stage where you get to the smaller venture capitals and get some government debt or bank loan. Once you have seen that traction, at the peak of this traction, people will come to you. You don't need to go. Then there will be people, then strategic alliances also will come in. Some company which is doing business in the area where your innovation is, they will come to you and say, hey, why don't you sell off your company to us? We will merge it. That is what is called M&A, merger and acquisition. Okay. Or there will be some very rich people who will send their representative saying, look, so and so has got 100 crore rupees and they want to invest 10 crore in your venture. So this is the stage where actually you need to work hard, and this is the stage where you actually enjoy the result of that work. So if you see, there is a gap in the time. So the philosophy of karma comes back. What we do today, that is our karma. It catches up tomorrow. So that's all about what we have said. I will share 5 resources and 5 competencies which I consider to be very important if you want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, the 5 books, there are 4-5 books, and startupindia.gov.in is a very good resource. You can use it, you can go through, and there are many other on the web. You will find a lot of information. But my request will be with a caveat, please validate the assumptions that are given in any including the government information base. They are only for consumption. They are not for action immediately. Before taking action, please revalidate. Okay. I would say couple of things. One is all by Indian authors. Ronnie Screwvala, an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. If people know, Swadesh Foundation is run by his family. Dream with your eyes open. Very good book. Rasmi Bansal, an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad, she has written a few books. One of them is Connect the Dots. The other book from Rasmi Bansal is basically she has written two books mainly on the entrepreneurs. One is called Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. That was about MBAs, mostly from IIMs. And Connect the Dots is non-MBAs, people who have not got formal management education but have made it big as entrepreneurs. Then a story of Dhirubhai Ambani, Against All Odds, by Mr. A.G. Krishnamurthy. It's, I would say, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or not, this is a good book to read. And finally, a couple of Bengali boys, I would say, Mr. Dhruvnath and Sushanto Mitra, they have written a book called Funding Your Startup. You want to be an entrepreneur and get money from others? Please read this. And of course, Ashok Shuta's book, Entrepreneurship Simplified, mostly talks about how to get money and how to run the business, not so much about ideation and validation of idea. So I was talking about competencies. There are 5 C's that will drive an idea to the market. First is the credibility. The credibility is not of the idea, but of the person behind the idea. Then that person's convictions about that idea and his clarity of purpose, why this idea should be working, why I should be taking this idea ahead. Then, of course, we all need money. The venture also will need money. So capital is important. And the concentration, that is how much effort you and the team wants to put in behind that idea to make it a success. These 5 competencies, the 5 C's behind that I, that will determine your success. So I will end with a Chinese proverb. I don't know who said it, so it's a Chinese proverb only. When the winds of change blow, some people build walls, some others build windmills. So the change is happening right now. Probably the speed of change is very fast. The wind is blowing pretty fast. What you want to do, you want to build a wall around yourself or you want to build a windmill. That doesn't happen so easily. It needs a lot of effort and it needs a lot of sacrifice. But you build a windmill, you bring in energy for not only yourself, but also for many other people. So with that, I will say thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So can
Thank you
I
very much, sir, for your interesting and very elaborative presentation.
Yes, sir. I have surpassed my time limits a lot.
Not at all, sir. It was treat to our ears because this is something which we don't study in our veterinary curriculum. You know that, sir. So
Yes,
it is something which is new. And can we take up a very fast few questions,
yes,
sir?
Yes, definitely.
One of the questions from a student is that the major VC firm, venture capital firms, they usually say that they don't invest in SMEs, and most of the proposals they receive are categories as SMEs and not startups. So how to differentiate between SME and startup?
Okay, see, there are different ways, and normally SMEs are classified as companies which have got a revenue of less than 25 crores, if I am not mistaken. Okay, so it is not about the classification so much as the idea behind which idea and the people on whom these people invest. Okay, the venture capitals normally their ticket sizes are big. Okay, the venture capitalists will usually look into an investment of in excess of 50 crores. Okay, they don't talk about SMEs and other things. They look at the idea and the people behind the idea. and they would invest in big amounts. So normally, as a startup, people would usually go to an investor who is called an angel investor. Okay? There, the ticket sizes will be small, probably between anywhere between a crore to 10 crores. People will invest depending on how good the idea is and how good are the people. Because ultimately, there are three things important when you are a startup, apart from the idea. The three things are the people, and the people. Once you have a good idea, it is the team, because what you need is, you need a person who understands marketing, you need a person who understands finance, you need a person who understands people, and you also need a person who understands your technology. You alone and a smaller team alone cannot deliver what the investors are looking for. The investors are looking for not only making the money 10 times bigger, they are looking at 100x, okay, probably. So if we have an idea which gives me from 1 crore investment, probably 50 crore in 5 years, 10 years time, angel investors will come in.
Thank you, sir. I think that might have cleared the doubts in the mind of the person who has raised this question. We have Dr. Prabha who has raised her hand. Dr.
Yes.
Prabha, you can ask the question from the speaker.
No, sir, it's not the question. This entire Gloom conference is very good and fine. I'm thankful to Dr. Sahab for giving a good initiation session, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Prabha, thank you very much. Appreciate your words.
One more question is that entrepreneurship has a lot to do with the government policies. And,
Yes, sir. I am belongs to Andhra Pradesh only.
Right. Okay. Go ahead, doctor.
Hello.
Dr. Prabha, can you please mute yourself?
Yeah. Dr. Mehta, can we proceed with the next question?
Yes, sir. The entrepreneurship has a lot to do with the government policies, and there are new policies which are coming up. And for example, there is a buzz of decentralized food production which is going up. And there is a trend that according to the policies, the farms and the processing areas, they should be in the outskirts of the city. Okay. So as a first generation newbie entrepreneur, how can one person can make a dent in the policy making? That's the question from the one of the audience.
I think this is a question not about entrepreneurship, but about policy making. Okay. So
rather than making a dent in the policy making.
So how do you make a dent in the policy making? Be in the policy making wing. Because I know a few people. Okay, either you become an IAS, okay, and get into that, or you join ARS, okay, and get into the ICR system and be in a place where you can influence policy making. That is how you can make. And as an entrepreneur, how you can make the policy dent? That is, you do something, you show something, and then show it to the big guys. That look, this is what can be done. You prove it, and then you can make a dent.
That's true, sir. That's true. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Satya, for sharing your experience with all of us. And I must say that it was a real eye-opener as far as new things are concerned, like entrepreneur versus intrapreneur. And I second your view that there is nothing you called as a serendipity. Luck always favored prepared mind. So thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate this opportunity. And thanks to all for being so patient with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
I can close the meeting. You can close the meeting, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.